Greetings, and welcome to this week's of Distant Learning with Mr. Wong, Monday's edition for the advanced class. Today we'll be going over 15.3% proportions. Homework will be linked on eCampus. Let's proceed. The percent proportion, lesson 15.3. The key idea is to either convert decimals to percents or percents to decimals just to get the common language in the math problem. When writing percents as decimals, remove the percent symbol, then divide by 100, or just move the decimal point 2 places to the left. The example shows 23%. By removing the percentage sign and moving the decimal 2 spaces to the left, you get 0.23. Remember the trick we had in class. 23% is the same as 23 cents. And how do we write 23 cents as a decimal? 0.23, the price tag you'd see for an item that's 23 cents. The next key idea is writing decimals as percents. You do this by multiplying the decimal by 100, or just move the decimal point 2 places to the right, then add the percent symbol. In this case, 0.36 is the same as 36%. 36 cents is 36%. Do go ahead and follow the rules of moving the decimal places anytime you convert percent to decimals or decimals to percents, even if the values are larger or less than 100 or less than a decimal. This is a critical skill, and was explained earlier in the year in lesson 15.1. When comparing and ordering fractions, decimals, or percents, you must convert all to the same units. That means comparing all decimals to decimals, all fractions to fractions, and all percents to percents. Now, we can use this to apply to percent proportions. This was written on the walls, but also the lesson included finding a percent of a number. You can represent A is P percent of W. Normally, we just have the percent sign here just to indicate where the percent number goes. A is the part, and W is the whole. We can also think of any number that has the word is as a numerator, and the of number as the denominator, where A is the part of the whole W, and P percent, or P out of 100, is the percent. So, for the example using 3 out of 4 is 75%, look at the color code. 3 out of 4 is 75%. The percent always goes over 100, and the word closest to the word of is 4, and that's the numerator, or the part. You may have situations where the part exceeds the whole, just like examples of extra credit. Let's take a look at some examples. What percent of 15 is 12? In this case, what is missing from that proportion? Is the percent missing, the part, or the whole? Since we don't see a percentage sign, we know the percent's missing, and that will be the numerator of the fraction of 100. So, using this key here, we write the percent proportion, always starting off with a formula. Then we plug in the values where they belong. 12 is of 15, and now we have to find a way to find the percentage. We can use a multiple of methods, including cross products or scaling. By using the multiplication property of equality, we can multiply both sides by 100, leaving just the variable. And 100 times 12 is 1200, divided by 15, because that's what fractions do, equals to 80. So to answer your question, 80% of 15 is 12. Now this is for finding the percent. What if another part of the proportion is missing? Let's investigate. Finding a part. What number is 36% of 50? Using this key again, we plug in the numbers where they belong, always by first writing the percent proportion, before substituting. The 36% will go where the P is, of 50 is the whole, so that goes in the denominator of the left side ratio. Again, you can solve this in a multitude of ways. We can multiply both sides by 100, as seen in the last example, use cross products and solve the equation, or use scaling by saying how we get from one fraction to the next. We have 50 becoming equivalent to 100. That means it's twice as big. If we go in reverse, 100 divided by 2 is 50. So we apply the golden rule by doing the same thing to both sides, 100 divided by 2 and 36 divided by 2. We get the result that 18 is 36% of 50. Let's see if we can confirm that answer using the same thing we did in the previous example by multiplying both sides by 50 to isolate the variable. In the previous example, we had the percent missing, so we multiplied by the opposite of the denominator. In this case, multiplying both sides by 50, it cancels out the 50 on the left, and we get a resulting equation we have to solve. Please use a calculator to help you with this. 50 times 36 is 1,800, divided by 100 is 18. So 18 is 36% of 50. Which method do you think might be more simpler for you? I prefer maybe scaling, but it might be effective just to isolate the variable by multiplying or dividing, depending on what you need to get rid of. Now what if we had to find the whole? This means a denominator will be missing in this number. 150% of what number is 24? Using the key again, we always start by writing the percent proportion formula. Then substituting the values where they belong. 1/50%, so it goes where the P is. 24 is the part, so it goes where the A is. Remember, we can solve this in a multitude of ways. In this case, we can't really multiply or divide by 24 because we still have the variable on the bottom, the denominator. One way we can do it, though, is to make cross products. 24 times 100 and 150 times W. Once we multiply this across and simplified, we'd be left with an equation 2,400 equals 150W. To solve this, we use inverse operations by dividing both sides by 150. The result will give us 16 equals to W. So 150% of 16 is 24. Again, since the percentage exceeds 100, the part exceeds the whole, which might be a scenario you encounter in the homework. Now it's your turn. Write and solve a proportion to answer the question. Again, it wants you to write a proportion, filling in the substituting parts of the equation as seen in the examples. Then solve for that missing part. Number 1, what percent of 5 is 3? Number 2, 25 is what percent of 20? Number 3, what number is 80% of 60? Number 4, 10% of 40.5 is what number? Number 5, 0.1% of what number is 4? And number 6, 1/2 is 25% of what number? You may pause the video now to answer the questions, again by writing the proportion and then solving. Then resume the video once you've completed the task. Welcome back. Let's check to see if your solutions are correct. Start by writing the proportion, then solving. The proportion and solution of the percentage for number 1 is 3/5 equals P over 100. We can easily use the method of scaling to multiply 5 by 20 to get 100, and then multiply 3 by the same number, 20, to get 60. Number 2, 25 is what percent of 20? The percent is missing here, and even though 25 is bigger, do not assume that it belongs in the whole part. Remember, we can use a trick that is on top of on bottom. So it'll be the proportion 25/20 equals P over 100. We can scale again by making 20 times 5 to get 100. So 25 times 5 is 125. That's the percent. Number 3, what number is 80% of 60? So we have the part number missing in this scenario. Now, unlike the other ones, we really can't scale this to go from 100 to 60. We can use cross products or multiply both sides by 60 and then simplify. One way we can do this, however, is if I divide this 80 hundredths by 10, I get a simpler fraction of 8/10. Think about this. 8/10 equals A over 60. Can 10 become a 60 really easily? That's right, by multiplying by 6. That means the 8 can also multiply by 6 to give you the same answer of 48. Now we encounter a decimal. 10% of 40.5 is what number? We write the number exactly as shown. 40.5 is the denominator, and 10% is the number on top of the 100. In this scenario, since we're working with fractions and decimals, we would isolate this variable by getting the a all by itself. What is the opposite of divide by 40.5? It's to multiply by 40.5 on both sides. When I do this, the a gets by itself, and I have 40.5 times 10, then divided by 100. We're getting a result of 4.05 as the number of 40.5 is 10%. The same thing goes for number 5. This 0.1 is the percentage. So this number is the number you'll see above the 100. In this case, we can cross products and then solve. When we multiply the w and the 0.1, we get 0.1w equals 400. And then we divide by both sides 0.1 to get 4,000. Number 6 is a complex fraction. We can do this by even converting to a decimal. Since the denominator is on the bottom again, we do cross products. Half is 25% of what number? Or you can think, 25 out of 100 is 1/4, or 1 out of a part of 4. If you have 4 halves, that will equal to 2. But by doing cross products, we get 25 times w and half times 100, which is 50. So 25w equals 50. What times 25 gives you 50? The result is 2. Let's take a look at some word problems and see how it applies to real-life situations. This bar graph shows the strength of tornadoes that occurred in Alabama in 2011. What percent of the tornadoes were EF1s? That is, level 1s in strength. The total number of tornadoes is 145, and that's the whole. And the number of EF1 tornadoes is 58, the part. We're looking for the percent, so we must first apply the formula to write a percent proportion. Since the percent's missing, we apply the 58 as the part and the 145 as the whole. Since we have p as a numerator, we can multiply both sides by 100 before simplifying. When we do this, 100 divided by this 100 is canceled out, leaving just p. 100 times 58 is 5,800, divided by 145 gives us 40 as p. That means 40% of the tornadoes were EF1s. Again, the key is to always start off with the empty percent proportion before filling in where they belong. You can use the multiple examples in here to see the different methods used to calculate, including multiplying, using cross products, and also scaling. Now you're ready for the homework. Homework for lesson 15.3 is on pages 666 through 667, problem numbers 12, 14, 16, 24, and 28. Links to the homework can be found in the May 18th update, in both Word document and PDF format. Submit your homework due by Wednesday, May 20th. Until next time.